And we are live. My name is Terry Thompson, and I am the host of Unbreakable Stories, along with my co-host here, Bonnie. Bonnie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy it's Friday, although I know you feel every day is Monday.
It is.
It's
Stop lying to yourself. Every day's Monday.
yeah, today felt like a good Monday. I had a lot of things that I've been trying to sort out mentally all week and really diving into my tools this morning and got my
You deeved deep into the dove, and you daved into the duve.
yeah, right.
Oh my goodness,
Um
that joke never gets old.
Seriously. Yeah, and I'm like, and it really leads into our topic for tonight. It's like, what can I control? I'm in control of my attitude, and how do I fix my attitude right now? And so I really dug into the tools that I teach others, and just spent. I like how Zan calls it the hour of power. It was a
Mhm.
little different today, um, but I also added some new variations of my tools to try to maybe kickstart some attitude adjustment, if you will. And it worked really well. So I'm pleased with myself.
That's awesome. Um, so control. Let's kind of dive into control, because here's the thing. Sometimes there's a lot of things that's going on out there within the world, and sometimes we feel like we can just lose control, and we're trying to maintain control or composure, if you will. And composure and control are a little bit in the same ballpark, just a little bit there. And it's one of those things that we all like to believe that we have things together, and sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a post that I made the other day within my social media on, we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And it kind of ties hand in hand with the conversation that we had last week about support. And I believe that with the right support, you can have that degree of something there to help you out whenever you do feel like you are losing control. And I know for me that's tremendous, because sometimes, man, I feel like I'm at the end of, like the end of my wits here, and sometimes I need help, and it's like, man, before I lose control, let me reach out and phone a friend or something like that. And you've been a great friend on that too, because I know I've reached out to you several times as well too. So in those moments where you feel like you have no control, what do you rely on? What do you count on? Do you phone a friend? Do you kind of stop what you're doing? What are some of the tips, tools, techniques that you use whenever you feel like you've lost control?
So you reminded me of a great conversation you and I had probably 2 months ago when there was some threatening situations happening with my son's school and some other schools in our area. And I very much was not in control of that part of the situation. And you helped me really. I reached out to you. I called you, and I think we talked for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
good
and
conversation though.
and I honestly feel like I just wanted some confirmation and some support, and that I was making the right decision, and keeping him home. And because sometimes I have a bad habit because of how I grew up. I was very independent at a very young age, um, mostly due to circumstances, we'll just put it that way, and also taking care of everybody else around me. And I kind of leaned into that role as I got older. And so I was kind of known as the person, kind of the go to person for support, and the one that just stayed strong through everything, right? So I had to, or gotten to over the past several years, reframe that, learn how to reach out and ask for support, because I
Mhm.
got so used to holding things in and trying to figure everything out on my own that I had to learn. And there's 3 words I wrote down. These keep popping up there. I don't even have to look at them. They're vulnerability, impact, and support have been coming up in my life over and over and over again over the past few months. And to me, that's a sign that these are things that, A, are really important to me, and B, that I need to keep working on in order to. So, part of what I wrote down was vulnerability leads to support, which leads to impact. and vice versa. Impact allows people to feel supported and being vulnerable. And so I've had to allow myself to be vulnerable, to ask for that support, and know that also also know that I'm worthy of receiving support. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that was a big part of it. I was told no a lot when reaching out for help growing up, and that really further impacted um, the feeling that I had to do everything by myself. Let's just put it
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
So, but,
And I want to kind of touch on vulnerability because it's one of those things that I truly do believe is very important. Whenever you are vulnerable, you tend to give away your control a little bit. But I also believe that there's a degree of gaining control when you're vulnerable as well too, because when you're transparent and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you let others see yourself for who you really are, and that gives you power as well too. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely correct. And I just realized I didn't necessarily answer your other question. Um, but when you're able to be vulnerable and ask for support, you then become a team.
Mm,
So it's not just you working on a problem anymore or looking for a solution alone anymore.
mhm.
And what's interesting is I haven't had an issue being vulnerable, say, sharing my story. It's very specific to, or being transparent or authentic, but it's very much for me specific to leaning on others and asking for help and
Mhm.
asking for support. Um, so it's been a kind of narrow struggle, if you will. I'm not sure what else to call it.
Mhm.
Very specific to that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. You do gain control. It, you gain, like I said, it becomes a team
What about
effort.
strength and energy? Because I think that whenever you're
Yeah.
vulnerable, it gives you strength, energy, courage, power, commitment. Because the thing is that when you don't hold back, and oftentimes people hold back and only allow the best version or the best parts of themselves show through. And that's not always the case. And I blame a little bit of social media on that as well too. I mean, there's a lot there with that, not only social media, but parenting as well. And I truly believe that you must allow yourself to be vulnerable, otherwise you're not really going to learn, you're not really going to grow, because if you try to achieve perfection in everything, you will achieve it in nothing. And sometimes you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable in order to not only learn those tough lessons or hard lessons within life, but to allow yourself to fail so that you can give yourself permission for forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfection. I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist.
Hmm.
um, and that's another thing I've kind of been looking at, especially over the past several months, is um, I caught on to things really quickly growing up. That was one thing that was a strength for me. But what I realized over the years is I think I excluded doing certain things if I didn't think I was going to be good at them right off the bat because of that image I had of myself. Um, and so it's been a process and learning that it's okay to have to practice. Like that's normal. You're not supposed to be good at everything right off the bat. Like that's um, so it's opened up a world of, I guess, possibilities, experiences, where now I'm not holding myself, like I still have high standards and expectations of myself, but I'm not holding myself to the impossible standard of perfection, which is allowing me to try lots of different things that I may not be good at and may not even like doing.
Mhm.
So,
And trust me when I tell you, there's a lot of things that I do every day that I do not like doing. And and that's a part of being an entrepreneur. That's a part of being the things that you and I both do, because we're trying to make a difference in the world. We're trying to have that impact in the world. And sometimes that takes a little support. It takes a little bit of vulnerability. It takes a little bit of understanding that, once again, you might not necessarily have everything together. But once you clearly identify that fact and take ownership in the fact that, you know what, I don't have it all together. I'm not in control. Sometimes there are things that are outside of my control, but maybe I need to learn a little bit more. Maybe I need a little bit more knowledge, a little more skills, a little bit more information, a little bit more resources, whatever the case may be. You heard me talk about this within my 5 rights. And it's one of those things that when things do tend to get out of control, some people quit. They give up. They're like, "Oh, I lost control. This sucks." It's a lot easier for someone to quit or give up than it is for them to, do different things. Now I understand. Now you and I talked about extenuating circumstances before, and I truly do understand there are extenuating circumstances sometimes that are, those things are out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. Those are what I like to call extenuating circumstances. So those are those little things that they're going to happen. We might not be able to do anything about it, but the one thing that really helps us deal with those extenuating circumstances is what I like to call having risk mitigation in play, or some type of a plan in place, just in case those types of extenuating circumstances happen. And I think that a lot of people don't really think about those types of things. They don't really think about what are the extenuating circumstances that could happen. Bad weather hits. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't prepared for that. I'm out for a week, and now I feel like I have no control. I can't do anything, can't get on Clubhouse, can't do anything, barely being able to text you. And it's one of those things where I felt for like a week I had no control. Zero, no control whatsoever. Thank goodness I had at least a lifeline.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to touch on something you said in the beginning, and then I got so into what you were saying that I forgot what I wanted to say too. So I'm being more interested than interesting. So I'm practicing, David. So it'll come back to me at some point. And you're right. There are a lot of things that are out of our control, and I think a big part is, like what you said earlier, about the forgiveness, and about, we've talked before about giving yourself grace, and not stressing about those things. I know it's super hard, especially when we have a routine and we're used to having access to things, 24/7 access to many, many things now with, the internet and phones and apps and all this other stuff. But sometimes it's okay to take a break, especially in those types of situations. Mm-hmm. And I remember what I was saying about the risk mitigation. I used to be the queen of risk mitigation, and only because I struggled with OCD for about 25 years. So my brain immediately, anytime there was any kind of situation where I was trying to plan something, went off in the 15 to 150 different directions of what could possibly go wrong, and how could I prevent it, when the likelihood of those things happening was like almost zero in most cases. And so that was something that I had to learn to let go, was not obsess over things that I couldn't control, and things, especially things that had not happened yet. But risk mitigation in and of itself, and with its proper use, is a great tool. Mm-hmm. So
I love it. And it's one of those things. So I remember, being in the military. So I have a strong military background. And one of the big things that we always had was a battle book. And here's what a battle book is. A battle book is filled with battle drills. In other words, it's like a if this, then that kind of a book. If this happens, this is your plan of action. It's your battle drill. It's your battle book. So like, hey, when bad weather hits, this is your plan of action with item number 1 through 52 of what to do during, a bad storm or whatever the case may be. So it was this big, thick, gigantic book that basically a bunch of leaders got around and said, okay, what are like the 152 things that could go wrong potentially, or what? I don't know if it was 152. It sounded good though. Anyway, they sat around and it was like, here's all of the things that could potentially go wrong, that we could lose control on, that potentially could, be an embarrassing situation, or, cause, loss of limb, loss of life, or equipment, or damage something, or whatever the case. So we called it a battle book. And the idea is like, here's your plan of action whenever you lose control over a particular situation, or if something was to happen. So that was kind of our risk mitigation guide. That was kind of our extenuating circumstances how-to guide, so to speak. And it was one of those things that I'll share a very quick story with you. And I remember knowing what right looked like in the back of my head, because in certain organizations, that's what right looked like. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but I took an action that I knew in the back of my head was right. But I was in a new organization, and in that new organization, that action was not the right action. So I felt like I lost control. I thought I had control. I took appropriate action. Somebody said I lost control and I was out of control and I should be fired for that. And it was just kind of one of those things that, what do you do when you think you're taking the right action? In the back of your mind, you are in total control, but in somebody else's perspective, you're out of control. What are your thoughts on that?
Whew. Well, it definitely all is a matter of perspective. I know in your situation, there's protocol that's supposed to be followed. I don't think I'm trying to think if I've ever been in a situation quite like that where I was doing what I thought was right and the organization. Well, so growing up, my son struggled a lot in school, and I spent countless hours there talking to teachers and in IEP meetings and trying to get him services to help him succeed in school. And so coming in as a 27, 28-year-old mother, single mom at the time, I was looked at as not exactly the most intelligent person on the planet in their eyes. And so quite often I was making decisions that were right in my heart and right by my son, but not necessarily good for their organization. And so frequently I was stirring up some trouble over there. Now, the difference here is I didn't necessarily have to play by their rules. Like, it wasn't like I was going to be removed from the public school system. But there was definitely a lot of standing up for myself, standing up for him, standing up for what I felt was right, and to get him what he needed, because the bureaucracy and honestly, the bottom line was money. The services cost money, and there were people there that didn't want to pay that money. Luckily, I had other people in my corner, but that's the closest I've come to being involved in an organization where that kind of situations happened.
Awesome.
That I can remember.
So we do have a couple of guests waiting in the back channel here, so I'm going to go ahead and bring them up now. Welcome to the show, Lady Lexi and Mary. How you guys doing?
Hey, we flip-flopped.
Everything is fine.
Awesome. Mary, welcome to the show. Lexi, welcome to the show. So who wants to go first? What are your thoughts on the topic that we've been talking about tonight?
Shall I go first, Mary? Well, I like the combination of support and impact and vulnerability. And of course, vulnerability is like this touchy subject. It's scary to be vulnerable. You never know what's going to happen. Terry, you talked about control and about giving control away and also gaining control by doing it. But I do believe that when we are vulnerable, or we dare to be vulnerable, that we actually get a chance to grow stronger. Even when we get a negative response, it still helps us build courage, because we did get vulnerable, we did get out there. So that's my 2 cents.
I love it. Being vulnerable builds courage. And I believe that you're right on that one. And when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, be transparent, like I said earlier, it gives you that strength. It gives you that ability, because once it's out on the table, it's out on the table. It's like certain people tend to hide a lot of different things. And you can always kind of feel that. It's like you feel that person like, man, you're holding back on something. Like, what are you holding back on? Like, why are you not committing? Why are you not doing this? And it's like that person's maintaining control and don't want to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, or let this out of the bag, or you know what I mean with that. And it's one of those things that the moment that you allow that, you're free. it's out. Now you can talk about it. Now you can do these different things. And that, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask Bonnie earlier about that vulnerability, that impact, and the support. Which one of those do you believe is more empowering between the three?
I'm going to be honest. I feel like it's a process. Like you can't have one. And that's why I think these three words keep coming up. Like first it was the whole thing with the vulnerability. And I was 6 months ago on Zan's show talking about why people are afraid of the word and how, I look at things sometimes very analytically. Like I was breaking down the word and the definition of the word and these things they just kept coming up and up and up. But now I really understand for me why is because I don't feel like I don't feel like you can really separate them in many situations. Sometimes you're going to be vulnerable and you're not going to get support. But in being vulnerable, you're most likely either seeking support from someone else or seeking to support someone else by sharing your story. And when you do that and you're supporting someone else, you're having an impact on them. And when you're accepting support from someone, they're impacting you. So I really feel it. I'm excited to see how this is going to continue to develop over the next several months, and the lessons that I've been learning and digging deeper into parts about myself that I guess habitually or just were so deeply ingrained in me, I didn't realize that they were an issue, for lack of better words. And so not working on those things was hindering my growth. So
I love it. So I pass the same question over to Mary or Lexi. Which do you believe is more empowering? Vulnerability, impact, or support? What are your thoughts?
I think
you go ahead.
Okay. I think life happens and sometimes it really hits us and we need support, we need help, we need assistance, and I don't like Bonnie says, the three of them go hand in hand because one leads to another, and one, when you take action, you influence the other. So when life happens and we are vulnerable, everybody can happen to anybody anywhere. But the difference is, are you ready to ask for help? It's always very challenging. Sometimes, like when I perfectly understand where Bonnie is coming from because I also have this perfectionist attitude. I think everything should be well done. And it's so difficult to ask for help. It's like, oh, now I'm a failure because I have to ask for help. So I had to learn that asking for help is not a sign that I am a failure or it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that I am strong enough to know that I need help in this one if I need to make the impact that I want to make. So they all go hand in hand, but it's something that you have to learn how to do it because sometimes you really need somebody either to listen to you. The assistance might be just somebody to listen to you and give their viewpoints.
I love it. And you talk about, are you ready to ask for help? And there's a preparation phase for that because oftentimes we're not ready for that. And I truly believe that it comes down to that point of being vulnerable to where you can be ready for things because you might not necessarily be fully ready, to be transparent, to be vulnerable. You might not necessarily be ready to receive support. A lot of times, it's like the book behind me here, Built to Serve, Evan Carmichael, right? We're all built to serve. And in some capacity, we can serve others a lot better than we can serve ourselves sometimes. And it really comes down to that point of when you're ready for that help, you will receive it. And it shows up in different ways sometimes. Sometimes that help shows up in different ways, but you have to ask yourself one thing. And I think that this is important, is that when you see that help, are you ready to receive it? But do you clearly identify it as being help? And I think that sometimes people tend to put up those barriers to a point to where they don't realize that someone is actually trying to help them. What are your thoughts?
I love how this is actually circling back to the question you asked earlier about the tools that I used that I never actually answered. Because part of this whole conversation for me is the spiritual element, and that we're not actually ever in control. And everybody can be like, but what I had to do this morning, what I got to do this morning is I really examined what was causing my feeling of being out of control or not having control. And really that boils down to fear. And so for me, I turned back to one of my favorite books that I discovered last summer when we had a fire, which is Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back, Transforming Fear to Faith. And so I just thumbed through there real quick. And part of it is surrender, is kind of giving up your fear of control and asking for guidance and asking for help, but not from a particular person, more or less looking at it. And whatever your faith is, I don't care what you believe in, whether it's universe or God or Buddha or whatever, but knowing that something out there is also supporting us versus asking for help from a specific person. So that, to me, turning back to that part of it, remembering that I'm always connected to this source, kind of made me feel like I didn't have to have control, because something else had my best interest in mind. And that the fear kind of like disappeared. It was very weird, but very good feeling at the same time, because it was like, I can relieve this. I do have the tools. I do have the support I need. And then it also allowed, like Mary said, me to feel ready to ask a particular person that I knew that could help me in the situation for help. So it kind of helped me clear the way to do that.
I love it. We have another guest in the back here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up to the stage now. Welcome to the show, Miss Ida. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you? Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Lexi. Hi.
Doing absolutely fantastic. So we're talking about losing control, those moments where you feel like you've either lost control, you're about to lose control, trying to keep everything together whenever all these different things tend to happen or tend to come at us. And just wanted to see, do you have any thoughts that you would like to add to the conversation tonight about losing or maintaining control or losing control?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear around that. Just not wanting to be vulnerable. It really comes from a place of fear because you're afraid of being judged. And oftentimes you're going to find that the people who need the most help are the ones who are most afraid to even ask for it. So I do agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. And I feel the most important part of it is that vulnerability, like just accepting that you need help and then accepting the support that comes at you, or being willing to ask for help,
I love it. I love the fact that you mentioned judgment, because I think that's a huge fear that holds a lot of people back, is that fear of judgment. And fear is really that first emotion activating resistance.
Yes.
Otherwise commonly known as fear. And when you resist things, you will not accept help even when someone is really trying to give it to you. But here's the thing that I've discovered. The thing that I've discovered is when it comes down to judgment, people will often judge you from a place of their weakness when they do not understand your strength. And I think that's a powerful message right there, because a lot of times people are so, they're so concerned about being vulnerable or being judged, if you will, that they don't even fully understand that just you being there, showing up, taking action, trying to do things different, there's strength in that.
Yeah,
there's tremendous strength in that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I actually want to pull an experience from something that I'm really actually trying to do for people right now. You guys may be aware of it, but ever since I joined Movement Makers, right, I wanted to like reach out and just apply the lessons and say, okay, coach people live. and it's free, like totally free. And I'm reaching out to the people who are like the most in need of that. And I'm saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you for free. But the response, which again comes from that place of, hey, I'm afraid to talk about my problems. I think you're going to judge me. They're not saying it, but you just know that that's what's at the back of people's minds. So it really comes back again to like just the fear, like false evidence appearing real. What did you define it as?
The first emotion, activating resistance.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So yeah, it's true.
I love it. I had to put my own unique spin on that one because I think the one that you said, I saw that out there. So when I was doing kind of my analysis on all the different ways that fear has been used, I was like, oh my goodness, what has not been said and how can I kind of modify, tweak, or change? Because you've heard me talk about this. How can I modify, tweak, or change? And I'm constantly looking at different things on how I can play with words because I truly believe that words are powerful. And whenever you can kind of twist words into a different way or a different meaning or for a different person, because different people do different things differently, interpret different things differently, understand different things differently. So when you're trying to coach someone and you're coming from a place of purity, of genuine, I want to serve you, I want to help you, and you get that resistance, that otherwise commonly known as that fear, how do you approach that? How do you attack that? Because you want to maintain control as the leader, as the coach, the teach, trainer, mentor, whatever label we want to put on that. How do you maintain control after you constantly hear no?
For me personally, I try to make you understand that this is coming from a place of love. And I have been where you are and I know what you're feeling. So it's hard, especially when the person doesn't like, I think if people have been in circumstances where they have put themselves out there before and they have been betrayed, I think it makes it so much harder for them to trust somebody, even if it's coming from a place of love. So my challenge would be to continue to show that, hey, I'm doing this for service. I get pleasure from helping people. We're built to serve, right? And the most fun you can have is when you're being of value to somebody. So for me, it's just constantly showing that, hey, I'm for real. I'm here to help. So whenever you're ready, I'm right here, but don't take too long,
I love that. Whenever you're ready.
Yes.
And I want to touch on that key point right there because, us as entrepreneurs, coaches, teachers, trainers, I like to twist that into leaders because we're leaders. Us as leaders, it is our job to maintain that control and to be able to continuously put out there until you're ready. We're always going to be ready. We're going to keep doing what it is that we do. But sometimes that message will connect with the right person at the right time when they need it the most. And that's where you need to be ready to jump on that and maintain control. Get control, maintain control. What are your thoughts on that right there?
I love it. I love it. And as a leader, like you put it rightly, we have to be ready because we don't know when they're going to be ready. And we have to be consistent. So one day you can give a kind of message and the next day you're sending a mixed message, right? The person they're observing. I know they're observing, even when they don't come to you, they're watching you. They want to see that, hey, is this person genuine? Is this person practicing what they preach? So they constantly watch you. And I think the onus is on you to constantly show that, hey, I'm for real. I'm here to help you. It's okay to be vulnerable with me. And whenever you're ready, I'm going to be right here. But you can only show that. You can't explain it. You can only show it by your actions. So it's very powerful I think it's a very powerful message to constantly be who you are and just show yourself exactly the way you are and just trust that, okay, that's enough for people to come to you.
One of the things that I used to say whenever I was coaching, because I used to coach, or not coach, but counsel people years ago. One of the things that I used to do as a counselor is that I would always tell people, I don't know what I don't know. And if I don't know, I can't help you. And that right there was kind of that lead-in statement to to build, to not necessarily lower their defenses, because I truly believe that sometimes people come in with their defenses ready to, stop anything.
Mhm.
And I always tell people just to kind of not necessarily lower their defenses, but kind of soften them a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know what I don't know. And if I don't know, I can't help you. And the thing
It's
is,
more like asking, like, how can I be of service to you kind of thing. So I'm here, just tell me what you need, right? My
exactly.
daughter's working in.
Oh, look at that.
They're saying hi to you. I'm gonna pause my camera for a while though.
All right. No worries. So here's what I'll do. So just in the back channel, let me know when you're ready again, and I'll bring you back up on the camera. All right. So I just want to say thank you very much to Ida for joining us there. She'll let us know whenever she's ready to come back on. But what are the additional thoughts on anything that was said? Bonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually I like how this kind of all was tied together between the three of us, because for whatever reason my brain keeps trailing off today. Don't finish answering your questions immediately. And so I wanted to touch on the fact that what Ida was describing is people being open to and accepting the help. And in those situations, literally the only thing we can control is ourselves. We have zero control of somebody else's perception of us, except by how we act. But we could act the same way, and you, like you're all going to perceive what I'm saying and what I'm doing in your own way. And so, like Ida was saying, also, when you've got pure intentions and a pure heart, that helps, because you're looking to serve and you're looking to do that out of love. But you're still going to have people who are so unfortunately buried in their distrust of people in the world, because of their own past experiences. And I was one of them at one point, where I didn't think anybody was going to do anything just because. There had to be some ulterior motive, because that's what I was used to. And now I know that that's not the case. And so it's really about finding people who need the help, but are also open-minded. And in doing that, hopefully those people who are struggling to either ask for help or admit that they need or want help will see how you're treating those other people, as she was talking about, her consistent, making content, consistently talking to people, being consistent with your messaging. And those other people who are kind of watching in the background will be able to make the decision about you that you are doing this with pure intentions.
I love it. And so I have a quick story to share on that one right there, on what you just talked about, action versus reaction. And it reminds me of a situation that I was in with somebody one time, because I had somebody that used to work for me years ago. And you're going to laugh your tail. I thought it was funny, but I ended up getting in trouble for this one, but you're going to laugh at it when I tell you anyway. So it's just kind of one of those things that I had a guy that used to work for me, and, he would never take action. He was lazy. He would always complain about, whenever I would give him a task to do or something, and this, that, and the other. And it was just one of those things to where, when somebody works for you and you feel like you're losing control as a boss or a supervisor or a leader, whatever label you want to put on it, you're like, oh my goodness, man, I can't get this guy to act for nothing. So, okay, here goes me kicking into my mode. If I can't get you to act, I'm going to see if I can get you to react. So what I did is I pulled this guy off to the side and I said, look, you're constantly giving me resistance and giving me slack for all of the things that I'm asking you to do. And I'm not telling you to do anything as of yet. I'm asking you to do a lot of things because these things need to get done. And I can't get you to do the things that must get done. Now, I get it. There's wants, needs, desires, this, that, and the other. And you talk about, you talk to employees, you want to get buy-in and have them do different things. And I was like, you don't do nothing. I was like, okay, I got you. What if I was to punch you right in the freaking face right now? What would your feelings be about that? What would your action be if I was to punch you right in the face right now? And that got the guy's attention. He wasn't expecting that. He was like, oh my goodness, is this guy crazy? Is he losing his mind? What's going on here? And it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, yeah, what would your reaction be if I was to punch you right in the freaking face right now? And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, well, I would take you behind a thing and I'd kick your tail end and I'd do this and I'd do that. And I was like, you know what? Why are you getting so excited about me punching you in the face versus getting excited about me asking you to do something? So you'd be much more willing to freaking fight me back than to do this task. So we kind of generated a conversation around that. And I was like, look, first and foremost, dude, I'm not going to punch you in the face, but I feel like that's exactly what you're doing to me, is punching me in the face each and every time that I'm asking you to do something. Now, here we go. You work for me. I'm your boss. Now I'm telling you to go do something. Go do that. And it became a different conversation at that point, because here's the thing. You got an asker versus a tasker. Think about it, an asker versus a tasker. If I'm asking you to do something, don't want to do that, don't feel like it. But if I task you to do something, it becomes official at that point. I'm asking versus tasking. Think about that. I can play this game if you want me to. So if you want to feel like you're in control, I got another story for you there, guy. I'm the boss. I'm in control. You see how that works? What are your thoughts?
Sometimes it's in a situation, boss and employee, it's a little tricky, because the way you start with an employee may lead them to take you for granted, because you're a gentle person, you are understanding, and then you always smile. So because there's no reason why somebody will not do their task when that's their job. So maybe the guy took you for granted because you're a nice person and stuff. And in that case, you have to hit your hand on the table and tell him, look, this is your responsibility. If you don't do your part of the work, there's a missing link and there's a break in the circle, and the success is affected. So that's something different. But what I wanted to talk about was, sometimes we have the control. We have things that are in our area of influence, things that directly concern us, that we can influence directly. Which those ones we can use the tools we have to get out from them. When we have a challenge, we can find a way of seeing how to. But there are things that are out of our control, like Bonnie was saying, and you have to trust either a higher power or some other person who you ask for some support or some help. Coming back to people that we want to help, sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people really don't, or maybe we need to start creating awareness in them, which is already what you're doing when you're being your authentic self. You're sharing your authentic self to tell them, look, I was once where you are now. I can help you to go to come up to where I am today. It takes time, but we need a lot of awareness creation, because a lot of people really, sometimes when they get stuck, they really don't know what to do. So we need to raise awareness on what they will gain if they come and have a session with us, and how far we can. Getting stuck is something that sometimes you really get stuck and you can't even think. So we need to create awareness. We need to be our authentic selves. It takes a lot of time to get to help people, because a lot of people, they don't even think that they need help. Or like they say, if you can take a horse to the stream, but you cannot force it to drink.
I love it. Mary, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I think communication is key. If you can explain why you want people to do something, or why something is better, or why you don't want to do it, because you may have a different solution, it makes all the difference. Sometimes people need to understand why it's done. And of course, a boss doesn't have to explain it to an employee. But then again, when you do, you could actually use the faults of the employee, because they might have good ideas and work with you and get it to a higher level. And especially when you allow them to give you input, it gets way more exciting and way more fun than just a task.
Mhm. I love it. And knowing why helps acquire buy-in as well too. And when someone knows why they're doing something, it will help get that buy-in, because if I know why I'm doing something, I'll be more likely to take action on that thing. And you hit on a very key point right there as well too. If they know why they're doing something, or they know what that end result is in mind, they can bring to the table what you might not necessarily see as a leader. So you, as an outside perspective, hey, I want you to do this. This is why I want you to do this. And this is the ultimate goal in which we are trying to achieve here. Great. What's the plan of action? Well, here's the plan of action. We're going to do A, B, C, and D. Well, boss, sorry about that, but you didn't see E and F. Oh, you know what? You're absolutely correct. I didn't see E and F. Great recommendation. You're in charge of that.
Yeah, and
So-
there's a reward to that. When you let the other do it,
Uh,
like I don't know what's better, if it's raise or being seen and being appreciated, and especially when others in the companies start to notice you because you are constantly stepping up and speaking out and letting people know, okay, if you thought about this, can we tweak this? And sometimes it's taking a bold move, and yes, they might say, okay, write a plan first, and we know what it is about. But I think one of the things that's the most killing for people is when they are not heard and not appreciated. So for quite a number of times, I actually left a business because at first, when I was hired, I would be appreciated for what I was doing, and they would give me all the space and room. And then next, there would be someone more controlling who wanted to be in charge on top of everything, and that there was no leeway at all to go and improve things. And at that point, I was like, okay, bye, I'm gone. And
any additional thoughts on what Lexi said?
Yes, I think, Lexi, you're right, because when you don't have the impression that you're being listened to, especially in a boss-employer situation, you lose a lot of things. Sometimes the company loses. Sometimes, like Mandela, the legendary Mandela, was explaining the power of listening. He said when he was small, because his father was a village chief, he used to follow his father to village meetings with the elders. And what he noticed was that they would sit in a circle, showing that nobody is bigger than the other one. And then the father would speak last. The father would listen to everyone else and will speak last. So in that way, if you have your meetings with your employees, you let them speak first. If there's an issue, okay, what are your thoughts? You say it. They give their ideas without you nodding or refusing. If you are not clarified, you ask them for clarification, and then they explain themselves, and then it gives them a feeling of being heard, of contributing to the company. And they don't feel that they are being, that you don't have that boss, or they don't work because they are afraid. They feel they are part of it. And when you speak last now, like the boss, it's to see whether you would integrate their suggestions, or how they are going to do it, or who you're going to assign to follow up on that. So when people listen, it's really important. And especially, even like coaches, you listen to your clients, and you will find out whether what they need is emotional assistance now, or financial assistance, or you distinguish the kind of assistance they need. Because sometimes we think that they need one kind of assistance. Meanwhile, they are not even up to that level yet. They need other assistance before coming up to where we want to bring them.
That's a great point, and it reminds me of the iceberg effect. So the thing is that you listen always and you speak last. And here's the thing. So that way you have all the information, and it cuts back on how much you actually have to say. So, or even saying the wrong thing, because quite often, if you let someone speak, they're going to get it out there. And if you cut them off, or you don't let them finish their thoughts, or you don't let them speak, they will eventually catch on to that and not say anything at all. I'm going to cut back on how much I'm going to say. You're not going to let me speak. I'm not even going to waste my time or my energy. And then next thing you know, you don't have all of the information. You don't have all of, the things that you need as that coach, as that leader, to really provide that good assistance. And that's what I call the iceberg effect, that stuff that's neatly tucked up underneath the water that you don't always see. And you're never going to see that because you didn't allow the conversation to even get to that level. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I remember that when I still got training for the coaching, they taught us to be silent. And of course, at first it was really difficult. But when you maintain that silence, it's amazing what's going to happen, because someone wants to talk. And if you don't say anything, they will start to speak up. And they will tell their story. And then, the things that they normally wouldn't say have a chance to come to the surface. And having said so, I saw the comment before about the abuse. And I was like, yeah, but as a coach, you can tell someone to leave a certain situation. But when it comes to listening, we need to listen and ask, what's keeping you from getting out? And then there might be a whole thought process involved, and someone might not just be ready, but it's listening to them and letting them talk, and occasionally ask a question like, okay, so what are your thoughts on it? I mean, you've asked it a million times already in this life. What our thoughts are on things. And I guess that one question, always getting confirmation. Have I missed something? What else is there? That's what's so powerful. And of course, you never know what the answer is going to be. But is that important? I mean, it's well worthwhile to give control to the other person if it helps you gain more on, not necessarily control, but more trust and a better rapport, and hence a better, whatever it is, kind of solution.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And, whether you're in an abusive situation or whether you're in a negative situation, whatever that may be, I'm being ambiguous on purpose here. Sometimes it's just better to let that person go. And here's the reason why. Because it gives them control. Otherwise, and it might even give them ownership. Otherwise, they will continue to rely on you. When they continue to rely on you, you shoulder that burden oftentimes. So here's one of the things that I do, and this is one of the tips, tools, techniques, resources, what label you want to put on it. Sometimes you just have to give them wings and let them fly. Let them take ownership in that. Let them go out there and discover that they have what it takes. And then you reward them. And I think that's really important as well, too. And sometimes you have to stop being that yes person and just learn how to give them ownership in things. Let them take action, get their results, big, small, positive, negative, figure out what the plan of action to modify, tweak, or change is. Let them take action again, make them feel like they're in charge. Now you reverse that. You flip the script on them and you reward those types of things. You reward that because remember, what gets rewarded continues to be taken action on. There's a better way to say that. I'm paraphrasing, but what gets rewarded continues to get done.
What gets celebrated gets repeated.
Yes. Mary with the victory. I love it.
And it's very powerful. It's actually the same thing when you put it in the situation of kids, because there's this talk about what you focus on, right? Where your energy goes, or where focus goes, energy flows. They talk about that even with kids. So if you're trying to stop like a bad behavior, instead of focusing on the bad behavior, which is what you're putting your energy on, you need to focus on what you want. So instead of saying like, stop sitting on the chair like that, it should be more like, sit up kind of thing. So you're not focusing on what you don't want. You're focusing more on what you do want. And then what you don't want is just going to disappear, kind of. Right. And then going back to, I want to talk on something that I think it's Lexi who was talking about it, letting the people talk. Like you're going to get some ideas from them. It's Lexi? Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So you're going to get some ideas from them. So it just takes me back to this book I read by Simon Sinek. The book, it starts with Why. Hey, Ellen. So it takes me back to this book by Simon Sinek, which is Start With Why. So long as you're able to, in a company situation, make everybody understand the purpose, like everybody can understand the why of the company, it makes it so much easier for people to bring ideas, knowing what the why is. Like everybody's working, the minds are working in a way that's like aligned with the goals of the company, right? So it's so much easier for people to bring ideas that are like to the positive of the company. And you would actually, like you're talking about, you know, plan A, B, C, D, and they would probably be thinking of a plan F that you didn't know. But that plan F is only because you had made them understand what the why of the company is, what the purpose of the company is. And I think a lot of people, they just want to feel, they just want to have meaning. Like if they know that they're valued in the company, sometimes it's not even about the reward or about the remuneration or anything. It's just knowing that you belong to something bigger than yourself, because everybody wants to belong. So if you can actually create that kind of environment for people, then and you are the supportive person, then I think people would generally feel more vulnerable. They would be more forthcoming with ideas, and they would be more open and willing to get your support and your coaching and everything. I'm kind of mixing everything together, but I think it's all connected, right? If there's a bigger why that people can relate to, and then they can see that support coming, and like it's all together.
Hey,
Yeah,
you're absolutely correct. Yeah, go ahead.
When you feel like you're in a situation where you don't have control, you know, a while back we were talking about leading by example, and sometimes you cannot prepare for everything. You just can't. I mean, I remember being stuck at the airport because I was on crutches and I had my suitcase, and you know, getting a car was easy, but then having returned my car, I couldn't get into the airport. You know, I wasn't prepared for that. Well, I was sort of prepared, but I wasn't prepared for not being able to ask anyone. So at that moment, it was like, okay, I do have a certain amount of control, even though I'm not in control at the moment. And then just, you know, reaching out, whether it's on in a low volume or high volume. In my case, I was screaming at some point. But reaching out also to strangers, and just, you know, see what's going to happen. It gets amazing results. And yeah, so the why is very important. I mean, if you're in a situation where you can't go back and forth, the why will become really, really big one. So I'm going a little bit off topic here, I realize, but
No, not at all. I mean, everybody has a perspective on what it is that you bring to the table from your knowledge, skills, and experience. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. So here's the thing with that. It's having stake in the overall why. So when everybody feels like they belong or they have ownership, they have stake, in other words, they have a lot more buy-in into what it is that's going on. Because here's the deal. A lot of times we do things where, you know, we oftentimes don't want to do those things. But if we understand what the overall benefit is, we may be able to kind of suck that up, so to speak. That's a military term here. So just suck that up. You'll be all right. Drink water, you know, kind of a thing. And it's one of those things that, you know, I can truly appreciate the overall thing that we're trying to accomplish, whether or not certain things suck or not, because don't get me wrong, there are some things that we do, even as coaches, entrepreneurs, people, that just suck. They're like, oh my goodness, that sucks. I don't want to do that. Why am I doing this? Well, you got to remember that why. That gets important, and that will take you through those tough times. Because I'm telling you, you've heard me say this before. People have asked me, why are you motivated? Why are you inspired? Why do you jump up and down and act like, I was like, you know what? I'm not always motivated or inspired, but you know what? I'm committed. I'm 100% committed to the things that I'm doing. And oftentimes it's that why that keeps me committed. It's that gentle reminder, and sometimes that tough reminder, why you do what it is that you do. And when you keep that at the forefront of what it is that you're doing, you will throw motivation out the window. That will not get you everywhere that you're going. You will throw inspiration out the window. That will not get you everywhere that you're going. But those moments that you feel like I'm losing control, I'm out of control, I don't know who's in control, kind of a thing. It's that why that will keep you on track. And when you have that clearly defined why, and you resort back to that in those moments that you feel like you are losing control or out of control, you will get back on track with appropriate action and the right attitude. I mean, there's a lot to go with that. You got right information, resources, attitude, action. So that kind of ties into the 5 rights that I talk about. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and sometimes we have to rely on others, on people we don't know. I mean, just like last week when I was on the highway and I had to go to the heart shoulder because I got sick. I had to rely on other people. I wasn't capable of dialing 911. So I was there being sick and all. And well, at some point, of course, I heard the truck drivers, honking their horns. So I was like, okay, people are noticing me. And I know there are cameras in place, but I was like, okay, I'll just see what happens. At some point, someone will pick up on it. So it's also about trust, and Bonnie actually referred to it, whether it's a trust in a God or a universe or whatever it is. But somehow a solution will come, and I guess that's when you remain hopeful, and like it's avoiding to go to feel like you lose all control and start panicking. If you can maintain a certain level of calmness, like, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I can't influence it right now, but I can influence myself and just, be myself, maintain calm, see whatever happens. Then, then you're open for whatever comes. And it can be magical. It can be really surprising.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing, because that's exactly what I wanted to touch on, is that the title of tonight's live stream is How to Control Anything. And that's literally by realizing that we have no control over anything except ourselves and our attitude. Like, I can't control any of you. I was sitting here thinking about the statement that you made about a quick display of power is better than a long explanation. And while I can see how that's super useful in the military and in emergency situations, I probably would have punched you in the face had you asked me that question. I'm being honest. Like, I wouldn't have waited for you to say anything else, because how dare you? And it would have been an ego response.
Yeah.
But if I could have stepped outside myself and maintained control of my own self and my own attitude, most likely I would have gotten up and just left and never come back.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on your mood, your attitude, what kind of state of mind you're in. And it's my job to keep control of myself, my attitude, my perspective. And what you were saying about inspiration, I have to disagree with that. No, we will not always feel inspired, but it is possible to maintain inspiration through daily practices, just like anything else, because if you're not spiritual or religious, I get it and I respect it. But it's almost like saying that you, trying to think of a good, something good to compare it to. Like, you can't maintain a healthy lifestyle all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you put in your body is within your control. Now, of course, extenuating circumstances and whatnot, but still the act of controlling what goes into your body is maintaining a healthy lifestyle. You get to make that choice about yourself. I don't always feel inspired. I don't always feel motivated either. I'm pretty damn committed myself to most of the things that I get myself into. And one of my favorite words is habit is conviction. But I strive really strive to stay inspired, because inspiration will take you places the commitment, conviction, and motivation will never, ever, 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 ever get you, no matter how hard you try. And with effort or with little effort and a feeling of ease and flow, which you've talked about many, many times, that's what being inspired and being in spirit really is all about, is that flow state. So I know I kind of went way off topic, but I was trying to tie a bunch of things together all at one time.
I love it. Any additional thoughts?
Well, I love the inspiration. Most of you were on my show a couple of days ago when we were talking about narcissistic partners and the result, them belittling others, breaking you down. And because of that, so I actually started out with a comparison. I told people about my client, and then Bunny pitched in, and some other people pitched in. Mary pitched in too, and he got to see it. He got to watch it, and he got very emotional about it. He even recorded a video. He wanted me to send it to the other people, and then yesterday again, I started talking about it on an IG live. And this time, a man and a woman started talking about it, and it, realizing that other people were actually experiencing the same thing, that it gave him understanding, and that's what he needed. So sometimes it comes from a very different angle, but seeing and watching and hearing what other people have experienced, that can make such a big difference. So called inspiration, called something else, called divine intervention or whatever, it helps when people hear other people talk about it, and then we get back to communication, trusting on other people, being vulnerable, and by sharing the story, having the impact. And Terry, at the beginning you were talking about accountability, taking responsibility on the show. And I've referred back to that like a zillion times. Like, okay, you can be say, okay, this, that, and the other, but in the end, it comes down to being responsible. And Bunny, when you get back to health, you and I know, like no other, and Terry, of course, too, that sometimes we don't have control over how we feel and what happens with our physique. But when we are capable of at least doing those little things which at least help us make us feel better, I guess we're also leading by example, because the other ones who actually don't take care of themselves, but then at some point maybe hear us talk about it or see us struggle with it, may realize, oh, hey, wait, yeah, my body is a vehicle. I have to use it for the rest of our life. So let's treat it a little bit better. So inspiration can come from many angles.
I love it. All right. So Alay's been patiently waiting by. I want to make sure that we turn it over. I just want to comment, though. That's a fantastic looking shirt you have on, by the way, Alay.
I received it this week, so thank you very much, Bonnie. So I figured that I came today just to show it off and participate indeed.
Lexi, did yours make it to you yet?
Oh,
No,
I don't check the I don't
checked
check
up
the
too.
email
I'm
all the
so
time, so
impatient.
no worries.
In 5
It could be
minutes
me. I didn't go check the mail for 2 weeks, so.
No, I also sent one to Lexi before Christmas.
Yes.
Well, 2 of them, I think before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah,
We'll have to talk about that offline.
You finished Ellen's
Yes.
version a week before mine, I suppose. And if you just
Oh,
got
okay.
it, and
Okay,
well,
that-
I'll check the link. But I'm like, I want to wear mine too.
It's on its way.
Show it off.
I was listening to what you were saying, and in many ways, I think the basis of all this, so the title, How to Control Anything, I think it's about communication. And from what I was listening to all of you, we talked about the why and buying in to other people's why. And too often we forget that communication is for us to share what our why is. But in all the activities I've done with Evan and you about finding my why, sometimes we forget that other people's why are completely different based on their experiences and what they wish. And I think that's such an important part to realize, because once you realize that our why could be different, then discussions can happen about expectations. So two people have different whys, they see the world differently, so they have different expectations on what it is. And I was thinking about what Terry was saying about someone at a job and so on. So it's a bit the same with my students in the school. Why would they do what I do? And the big question is, in a job, sometimes you have employees, because in geology, I remember having people working with me, and people say, okay, I'm here, you're going to pay me. So what are you? So you're here to do something for me, you're paying me. So the expectation was, as an employee, the employer was doing something for them. On the other hand, once you start and you flip it to the fact that you want to serve, then an employee is saying, okay, what can I do for you as a company, as an organization, as a team, so that we can all get better? But for that, we need to communicate, because once we can align the why, then we can say, okay, we have a common goal, then we can build so much more. And if it happens that the why of 2 or 3 people are not compatible, that's okay to realize that, well, you need to go and find something else to do, find another team. But instead of trying to hang on and raise conflict and so on. So it's always tricky. And
no, you hit on something, and I actually used to position certain things this way as well too. So when I was in the military, this is one of the things that I used to do. I used to align my why with their goals.
Oh, I see.
What are your goals? And then what it is that you want to achieve, I want to achieve. And whenever you can whenever you can create your why based off of their goals, and then align that with what it is that they want to achieve, and then celebrate their victories, their success, their goals, that better aligns with the company's why. So what we did is we aligned our why with their goals. What are your goals? Well, I want to do this. I want to do that. Now, granted, we have certain things that we do have to accomplish that we can't get around that. But when you align your why with their goals, they will have more stake and buy-in and take more appropriate action, because you have their best interest and their goals and their why and their reason, because they feel like they are being included and they belong and they are well taken care of and looked out for. And whenever you got buy-in at that level, they will help you achieve your why and your goals.
No, I do agree, because when people have a choice and they have their say, they feel they're part of the team. It's the same thing in my classroom. If a student realizes that we're doing things together, so I'm sharing what I know and they have the opportunity to grow, that's amazing. And the same thing in a relationship where you have 2 partners. And if you can, instead of saying you're there for me, so what can we do with each other, align our why so that we can grow together. So it's always a good end, and communication is at the basis of all of this.
I love it. And part of the things that we do here at Unbreakable Stories is that we always share stories that are motivational. We share topics that are motivational, inspirational. You know, we always tell people, it's like, we're here to motivate, inspire, encourage, and empower you. And one thing that you can do to help us align your goals with our why is to share your story. Now, here's a great way in which you can do that. I have a quick printout right here, and I have a link that I have shared that you can download this little printable right here. And if you download that printable and take a picture of yourself on social media and share it, we've literally made it super simple for you. Bonnie created this absolutely amazing little picture right here. And when you print that out and you take a picture of yourself with it, you don't have to print it out on a piece of paper. If you don't have a piece of paper, Ida shared hers on her phone and we loved it. It was a great picture. And she shared that on social media and let us know that she too is unbreakable. And that's one great way in which you can share your support and show the world that you are unbreakable, because our why is we want to let everybody know that if it's possible for you, it's possible for somebody else. And the best way to do that is to share your unbreakable story, to share with the world that you are unbreakable. unbreakable. And we've made it super simple for you. So if you do want to show the world that you are unbreakable and share your support, you can click on that link that's right there within the chat, or go to unbreakablestories.com/share. I've set out all of the instructions right there for you. All you have to do is download that piece of paper. Yeah, you can download it on your phone, your tablet, your computer, and sit back and take a picture of yourself like that with it. Whatever works. Like Ida's showing you right there, she has given you a great example of how to take appropriate action. She is being very resourceful. See, here's the thing. There's never a lack of resources, only a lack of resourcefulness. And Miss Ida, you are resourceful. I love it. Thank you for sharing with that one. And here's the deal. We want to share that with everybody. We want to share with the world that you too are unbreakable. And when others see people like us, like you, Alay, Ida, Mary, Lexi, Bonnie, myself, when they see us, they're like, you know what? I'm unbreakable too. I have a message. I have a story. And that's the power of the things that we're doing right here at Unbreakable Stories. So it would truly mean a lot to us if you share your support. Click on that link or head over to our website, download that picture right there. Take a picture of yourself, tag us at Unbreakable Stories, use the hashtag #MyUnbreakableStory, and share with the world that you are unbreakable. So that's just a quick pause and a quick plug right there for Unbreakable Stories. Now back to the conversation. I love it. Alay, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. I always love the way that you share your message and the way you share your story. You're so calm. You're so cool. You're so collected. When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
You have to say that there has been a lot of acceptance in my life, because people were talking about distrust earlier and betrayed, and all I could think of is, in many ways, for many years, I lived with the idea that I'm going to do anything as long as I don't have to rely on you, and just it was like a big wall to make sure that nope, I'm going to do what I have to do, and if I feel that I need to rely on you, that was a big step. And if with the time, then we start to trust.
Mm-hmm.
The wall is still there, but it's getting thinner. So it's interesting. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts when you hear the words know, like, and trust?
I think I can trust pretty much anybody, because I'm a very I trust most people, and that's, I think, been my downfall over the years, where I trust very easily. So I had to find a way to, okay, so you know what, you trust a lot, and at some point, so well, if trusting is not always working, then you have to do a 180, and then it's a zero. Nobody will have trust at all. So it's always interesting to see, are you living a binary life where it's all or nothing? So in between, it's a whole life journey.
Trust,
I don't have the answer to that
but
one.
verify. Trust but verify. That's the key word right there. Trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to share a funny story which happened a few days ago. So I've been selling all this stuff from my mom's house because it needed to be emptied because of it was sold. And so at some point, someone in perfect Dutch sent me a message, and it only said L, like EL. And I was like, okay. So then at some point, I said, oh, okay, here's the address, here's my phone number. And normally at that app, I don't put my phone number out there, because there are always people who like to scam you or troll you or whatever it is, or threaten you. So at some point, I didn't know if it was a he or she. I got a message back, and it wasn't in good Dutch anymore. And I was like, okay. So all the alarm bells started ringing on my part. Like, okay, I don't trust this person, because why? And I started to regret that I gave him my phone number. So I said to my brother, well, do me a favor, and you've got the cameras in the house, so please watch me at that and that time. And two other people were actually helping me out, and they said, well, do me a favor and just stay a little bit longer until the person comes, because I don't know what to expect. So then what happened was she actually called me, and then I understood that she was Elena, and she came from Russia. And although she had lived for like 20 years in the Netherlands, she still had a little bit of trouble every now and then with the Dutch language. So then it continued on. So she was at the front door, and I opened the front door, and she looked at me, and she looked at me again, and she said, "You are a girl. You're not a guy." And I was like, "What did you expect?" "Well, I heard you on the phone, and you got a little bit of a weird voice, like a male, and I actually thought you were gay." So when it comes to trust and prejudice, well, I guess it came from both sides. So it's, yeah. And then we get back to communication again.
Awesome. Lexi, thank you very much for sharing. I missed everything that you said right there. I'm sure that it was fantastic. So I lost my internet connection and I have so I'm back now.
Do you want me to repeat it really quickly?
No worries. I'm sure that everybody that's watching got exactly what it is that they needed. They can watch the replay. I can watch the replay, but I just want to say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that one. Anybody have any additional thoughts?
Thoughts about trust?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thoughts about trust. It's really like Alain will say, you somebody who trusts. I trust people. I used to trust people. Well, I still trust people. I've not lost trust in humanity. I used to trust people, but I got betrayed so many times, and it's either I am on the left or on the right, so it's 180 degrees turn. And the other day when I shared with Lady Lexi on her channel that I don't have childhood friends because they betrayed me in a very terrible way, and I cut off. And she was like, "No, you don't cut off. Maybe there's a middle ground. There are things that you can forgive, but you keep watch." I cut off from them because I felt that the betrayal was too much, and I couldn't bring myself to trust them anymore. And I don't like to be with somebody when I will be on my watch at any time. I don't trust you, and then you are my friend. And what will you tell a lady, or how will you keep a friendship with somebody who knew that I had issues to have children and I was married, and she organized a baby shower for my husband's boyfriend? Are you going to trust that kind of person again? So sometimes the betrayal is so much that you just cut off. But about trusting strangers, it's when you have this growth mindset and you know that you trust people, you say, okay, the humanity has still has good people. So you find yourself in a certain situation and you trust that people will help you because you have a growth mindset, and you keep your watch, but you also know that you can't do it on your own. You need support, you need people, but you are on your guard. That the people, that's why when you are in the community of like-minded people, sometimes you do things you don't need to overlook and see if you trust them, because those are people who have the same mindset like you, and you're in a growth process, and you know that they can only do something that will help you to grow. That's a little different, but when you come to real friendship with people, sometimes it's really difficult and tricky.
100%. Mary, thank you very much for sharing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wind down the show here. We've been on for about an hour and 24 minutes now, and we want to make sure that we keep this at a limited time because we do have the after party. The after party is where all of the action really happens, so we do tend to talk about a few things. But here's what we're going to do. As we're winding down, what I want to do is I want to get everybody's final thoughts on the things that we talked about tonight and share what your final thoughts are. So what I'll do is I'll go in order, and we'll have Bonnie. We'll have Bonnie. Well, I'll speak last, but I'll have Lexi go first. I'll have Lego second, Ida, and then Mary, and then Bonnie and myself. So just to kind of give an order here of exactly, yeah, zigzagging. So I'm just going on how I see it on my screen. So I would say PTR, but I can't PTR on this big. No, I'm just playing. talking about Clubhouse speak over here. So if I was on Clubhouse, I would have said PTR. So
I'll just start.
all right, so
Okay,
let's
so
go ahead and turn things on over to Lady Lexi. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, so I got a couple of thoughts. Before teamwork was mentioned, I also believe that it's good to look outside of the team. So sometimes when teams only focus on themselves, they forget that there's like a whole organization around them. And, sometimes it's good to think outside of the box and connect with other people, see what they are after, and see how you can combine it. 1 + 1 = 3 or more. And the other thing, when it comes to trust, what I've come to learn over the years is, and actually that's one of the things I usually do when I'm coaching people, is when we see people when they do certain things that we don't like, I always try to see why are they doing what they are doing, and are they like that all the time, or is it in a certain area? And by seeing that, I'm not going to say that it gives all the trust back, but at least it gives some form of understanding, and that makes it easier to deal with. So that's what I wanted to say.
Mhm. Awesome. Lexi, thank you for joining the show. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. All right, over to Alay.
Thank you. So my last word tonight will be the following. I think the main thing is to start by accepting yourself for who you are and knowing what your why is, and then accept others for who they are and what their why is. And then once you accept them for who they are and accept yourself for who you are, I think there's less of a need to control anything. So I think that would be my point there. And then if there's no need to control anything, I think that's the best place, as Mary was mentioning, to choose to build a relationship on trust. Could be a relationship with a partner, could be in business or otherwise. So I think that the subject was well put together tonight, and thank you for all the guests for sharing their opinion on that. Thank you.
Awesome, Alay. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your valuable feedback, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Ida, over to you.
Okay, so final word on that, because the topic is how to control anything. The thing you would realize is that you really can't control anything. The only thing you can control is your response to whatever situation you find yourself in. So I think just being able to take the time to understand yourself, understand why you do the things you do, and be able to be grounded in who you are. That way you're able to have the self-control that you need. But in addition to that, then it's all about having healthy boundaries so that you know what to let in, what to not let in. And that way you are in a way protecting yourself, but it's not like you're shutting down. It's just like, no, I can't accept that. Or yes, I can accept that, because you know what boundaries you've put in place for yourself. So having healthy boundaries is key for me, and knowing that you really cannot control the things around you, but you can only control your response to those things and what you're willing to accept.
I love it. Ida, thank you very much for joining. We finally got you on the show. I love it. We've been trying to get Ida to come on here on the show for like the last, I don't know, 3 episodes here. And we've always been chatting with each other. And Ida, thank you very much for joining us. I'm truly grateful that you had time to join us here tonight. And man, it's a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. Same here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. And now I'm ready to turn it over to Mary. And I just want to kind of preface before Mary talks is I always enjoy Mary's smile. I always enjoy her wisdom. She brings a powerful smile and just even more powerful wisdom to the table that you can greatly appreciate. So I just wanted to kind of preface that I always truly greatly look forward to hearing the things that Mary has to say. And I know a lot of people say the same thing about me, but man, for me, I just want to point out, Mary, I'm inspired by you a lot. And I just wanted to highlight that before you share your thoughts tonight, that I am truly grateful for you. Now over to Mary.
Now you make me blush like a 16-year-old. No, it's also a pleasure to share this space. Thank you, Alan. It's also a great pleasure and an honor for me to share this space with you all. And it's because I'm in this great company and in this great community that you bring out the best of me. And so, a great topic today, as usual, how to control anything. And we cannot emphasize the importance of knowing your why and being your authentic self. Because, as we say, we always have things that are within our influence of control where we can apply the tools and control them. There are other things that are out of our influence of control, and we cannot force certain things which we don't have control over. So the basic thing is you look at what you can control, think about your why, and like Alain said, very important, we don't always have to have the same why like every other person, but we can have complementary whys, and we see how we can put them together to make one. So it's an honor for me to share this space with you all.
Awesome, Mary. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Like I said, I always look forward to hearing Mary because she is just filled with so much valuable wisdom. And I just wanted to share once again, let's show some love to Mary tonight. Everybody get those hearts up there. This is something that my daughter made, and I just want to improvise, Bonnie, improvise. And I just want to make sure that I showed this because when I saw Alay pop that up, and then I seen Lexi pop that up, I was like, you know what? Let me grab this flower this heart because my daughter made that, and I just wanted to show everybody that as well too. So, Mary, thank you very much for always.
I appreciate everybody, and I take that with real honor. Thank you very much.
100%. Thank you very much. And now over to the unbreakable, the mastermind behind why all this is here, the creator of the Unbreakable, the designer of the Unbreakable t-shirt, the creator of the My Unbreakable campaign. She loves it when I do this because I put her on the spot. The designer of the I Am Unbreakable printout sheet right here that everybody has right here. Let's go ahead and get things turned on over to, I'm trying to delay this as long as possible. Let's go ahead and turn things on over. I love it. Let's turn things on over to Bonnie.
Gain my composure here for a second. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Yeah, that was fabulous. I appreciate you, and I'm just grateful for you. I'm grateful for all of you for showing up here week after week as well. And when you can, and sharing your wisdom. And what I'm going to leave everybody with this, it's going to be like a little cliffhanger, is that this is something I'm learning again myself, is that surrender is not giving up control, but the only way for us to actually gain it.
I love it. That's a powerful message right there. And it requires no other words for that. And you must be willing to surrender. I love it. I absolutely love it. Here's the deal. We may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And that's the power of what everybody just witnessed here tonight, is that sometimes you might not necessarily have it all together. And you may feel like there's those moments where you are losing control, lost control, and you feel like you're overwhelmed. But I'm here to tell you, with the right level of support, with the right teamwork, you can make that dream work. You can maintain control. You can gain composure, no matter what those extenuating circumstances are. You have exactly what it takes to achieve anything that you want to achieve within this life, only if you're willing to be vulnerable. And when you're willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, that's when you can have a very good impact on yourself. And when you have that impact on yourself, you can have that impact on others. Now, I don't say any of those things to be impressive, but I say these things to impress upon you that you have exactly what it takes to control anything that you want to within this life. And here's how you do that. I talk about this all the time, and I call it the 5 rights. If you want to achieve success within anything, if you want to control anything that you do within this life, you must adhere to what I call the 5 rights. And that is, be at the right place at the right time. We are all here at the right place at the right time. Each and every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we go live right here on YouTube and on Facebook. And we collaborate, we communicate, we contribute to one another. But more importantly, we're creating impact. We're creating influence. We're creating these things that you can consume so that a way you can change your life, because that's the story here. That's the message here. We are trying to motivate, inspire, encourage, and empower people just like you that are watching each and every week that, you know what? You can do anything. If it's possible for us, it's possible for you. You see, we showed up and we sure did show out. But you know what? We also speak up so that we can speak out. And here's the reason why we do this. The reason why we do this is for everybody just like you that's watching currently or watching the replay, because I know there's going to be people that watches the replay. What you have just been given here is also what I call my second right, which is information. When you have the right information, that's a resource. That is an absolute resource. Information is a resource. But you know what? It's also a matter of perspective on what that right information is. And there's a lot of information that's out there. And that's the reason why it's important to listen. You listen so that you can learn. And each and every one of us, as you saw right here, as an example here tonight, we listened and we learned. We didn't try to step on each other's toes. We didn't try to interrupt one another. We didn't try to put our values on one another. We listened. We learned. We gained an understanding from a different perspective, because that's what makes us all different. We all have knowledge. We all have skills. But the one thing that sets us apart is our experience. And I don't have the same experience as everybody that's up here on the stage tonight. I just don't. That's the reason why it's powerful to have these types of conversations. And this conversation is a resource. This video is a resource. Each and every person that's on this stage is a resource. And that's my third right. Have the right resources. So when you have the right resource, you can reach out to that resource anytime that you feel like you are losing control and that you need that level of support. You see, I need Bonnie. I do. Each and every single day, I text her, I message her, I call her. We talk each and every day. And we share a lot of different things. We share knowledge. We share experience. We share information. We share resources. And we're able to sharpen one another. That's that power of that support. Because, you know, oftentimes we're not in control. And sometimes we verify because we trust each other. We've built that. We've known each other for a while, and we communicate that effort. As Elaine referenced earlier, communication is key. It's essential. It is important. You must do that each and every day. You must communicate. Now, we all communicate different, because keep in mind that different people do different things differently. Different people say different things differently. Different people interpret different things differently. Which brings me to my next point, which is the fourth right, and that's the right attitude. When you have the right attitude, anything is possible, because keep in mind, imagine if I did the same thing to you, what I mentioned earlier about punching you right in the face. Imagine if I punched you right in the face, what would your attitude be? Well, Bonnie expressed very clearly what her attitude would be. And we will see what happens with that. But my point with that is that the right attitude is important, because imagine if I told you to do something and immediately you did not want to do that. You would be defeated before you even got started. And right then and there, you lost control, because you don't have ownership. You don't have stake. You didn't have buy-in because of a bad attitude. You see, there's a lot of things that I don't have to do within this life. There's a lot of things in this life that I don't want to do. But I modify, tweak, and change because I get to do these things. You see, I get to talk to Bonnie. I get to talk to Lexi, Alay, Ida, Mary. I get to do this. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for this opportunity because, you know, I could be doing other things. Truly could. I have a wife I've been with for 27 years right upstairs. I've got 2 kids. I could be upstairs. But you know what? I'm right here. I'm sharing knowledge. I'm sharing skills. I'm sharing experience, showing support, giving value, because I am like that book that's right here behind me on that shelf. I'm built to serve. Like my mentor said, Evan Carmichael, you must find your purpose, and that becomes your passion. Your passion is your purpose, and that's your why. Okay. And once you discover deep into that, you will take action each and every day to achieve that. And that's my last right there. Right action. So right place at the right time, right information, right resources, right attitude, right action. And when you adhere to those 5 rights, you will never be wrong. Now, here's the reason why action is so important. Because you could be at the right place at the right time, have all the information in the world and the right resources, and even a great attitude. But you know what? It's that right action that separates each and every one of us. It's that right action. Now, right looks different for different people, because what was right for me might not necessarily be right for each and every one of you. And that's up to you to discern. That's up to you to figure out what that right looks like. When you put all of those things together and figure out what that right action is, you will achieve results. You all have heard me say this before. Those results could be big, small, positive, or negative, but they are, in fact, results. It's up to you to figure out within those results what went right, what needs improvement, what can you modify, tweak, or change, and continue taking action, because it's a process. It's a journey. And when you understand that, when you have these frameworks in place, when you have all of this into place, you can control anything, but the most important thing that you must control is right there. It's that mindset. Everything else beyond that mind right there is an action set. But you must control that mind. And when you control that mind and you build that up, because it is a muscle and it's powerful beyond measure, it is powerful beyond comparison. Because you see, it is not our darkness that scares people. It is our light that is powerful beyond belief that people are scared of. And people do not want to see other people shine bright. But you know what? When I look around in this room right here, I see some very bright people. And I love that. And I will leave you with this right here. I will leave everybody with this right here. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm helping somebody up. And I want to get them to where it is that I am. If you see me looking up, it's because I'm thanking God each and every day for the opportunities that He has given to me. And I'm grateful for that. I am thankful for that. And I do not want to take any of that for granted. When I look to the left and I look to the right, I see absolutely amazing people just like you each and every day that I'm surrounded with, because here's the deal. I am one person. That's it. I'm one person. But you know what? If you want to be great, you surround yourself with even greater people. And here tonight, I am surrounded by some absolutely great people. And from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing out. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for speaking out. I love each and every one of you. My name is Terry Thompson, and thank you for listening. All right. I just want to say thank you very much to everybody that took time out of your day to listen to the show, to be here, to show up and show out. Once again, I have a link shared right there. If you want to show your support, make sure you have this printout right here. And here's how you can do that. Head on over to our website, which is unbreakablestories.com/share. Print that out right there. All of the instructions are right there on that landing page. We would greatly appreciate it. We will share that out with the world and let everybody know that you too are unbreakable. Once again, thank you very much for listening. My name is Terry, along with my co-host here, Bonnie, and the amazing friends that we have here. This has been Unbreakable Stories.